Welcome back to the channel Coinexa Vault, and today my friend I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. I need you to put down your phone. I need you to lean in close to this screen, because what I am about to share with you today is the kind of information that most people walk right past every single day without ever knowing it. And I am talking about a coin so unbelievably common, so completely ordinary looking, so utterly unremarkable to the untrained eye that millions of people have already spent one without a second thought. I am talking about the 2007 Lincoln Penny, a coin that was minted in the 21st century, a coin that most of us have seen hundreds of times, a coin that most people would not even bother picking up off the sidewalk. And yet, my friend, the right example of this exact coin, the right variety with the right characteristics in the right condition, is currently valued at a jaw-dropping, life-changing, absolutely staggering $15 million. Yes, you heard that perfectly right, $15 million for a penny. For a single 1-cent coin that might be sitting in your change jar right now, might be rattling around in the bottom of your car's cup holder, might be tucked inside a coat pocket you have not worn since last winter. And I need you to stay with me through every single second of today's video because we still have 2 more pennies to reveal after this one, and I promise you the stories behind those coins are even more shocking, even more mysterious, even more valuable than what I am about to tell you right now. So do not touch that skip button. Do not even think about leaving, because the best is absolutely yet to come and you cannot afford to miss it. Now let us talk about the 2007 Lincoln Penny and why it occupies such a legendary and celebrated place in the world of modern American numismatics. Because this is not a story that begins with some ancient mint and a long-forgotten era of American history. This is a story that begins in the 21st century, in a world of digital banking and credit cards and online shopping, in a world where the humble penny was already being dismissed by many as obsolete and unnecessary, and yet right in the middle of all of that modernity, the United States Mint managed to produce something extraordinary. Something that would eventually become one of the most talked about and sought after coins of the modern era. The year 2007 was itself a fascinating and in many ways transitional moment in American history. The country was on the eve of the great financial crisis that would reshape the economy in profound ways. Smartphones were just beginning to transform everyday life, and the Lincoln cent was still being produced in its classic design. The memorial reverse that had been in place since 1959, featuring the Lincoln Memorial on the back and the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front. A design that had by 2007 become so familiar, so embedded in the visual landscape of American currency, that most people could look at a 2007 Lincoln penny and register absolutely nothing unusual about it whatsoever. And that is precisely what makes the rare varieties of the 2007 Lincoln Penny so extraordinary, because the errors and special characteristics that give certain examples of this coin their multi-million-dollar value are not obvious. They are not splashed across the face of the coin in giant letters saying, "Look at me, I am valuable." They are subtle. They are technical. They require knowledge and a trained eye to identify. And that combination of apparent ordinariness and hidden rarity is the secret formula that creates the most exciting and valuable coins in the world of numismatics. So what exactly are we looking for when we talk about a 2007 Lincoln penny worth $15 million? The answer lies in a combination of factors that come together in almost impossibly rare circumstances. First, there is the question of the planchet, the blank metal disc that gets fed into the coining press to be struck into a coin. And in 2007, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents on planchets composed of a zinc core with a thin copper plating, and very rarely Through errors in the manufacturing process, coins were struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a planchet intended for a different denomination, perhaps a planchet of incorrect composition, perhaps a planchet that was somehow left over from a previous production run. And when a Lincoln cent design gets struck onto one of these wrong planchets, the result is a coin that is physically and chemically different from every normal example of the same date. A coin that is instantly recognizable to the trained numismatist as something extraordinary, something that should not exist, something that the mint never intended to release into circulation, but that somehow slipped through the quality control process and made its way out into the world. Then there is the question of double dies, one of the most celebrated and sought-after error categories in all of American numismatics, a condition that occurs when the hub used to create the working die impresses its design into the die not once but twice, and if those two impressions are not perfectly aligned, if there is even the slightest rotation or shift between them, the result is a die that carries a doubled image of the design, and every coin struck from that die will show that. Doubling as a visible spreading or ghosting of letters, numbers, and design elements that is unmistakable once you know what you are looking for. A 2007 Lincoln penny struck from a dramatically doubled die, showing strong and clear doubling on the date, on the motto "I in God we trust," on the word liberty, on Lincoln's portrait itself. That is the kind of coin that stops serious collectors dead in their tracks, that gets rushed to professional grading services in trembling hands, that emerges from the certification process in a sealed holder with a label that transforms it from a 1-cent coin into a 5-figure, 6-figure, or even million-dollar numismatic treasure depending on the strength of the doubling and the grade of the coin. And speaking of grade, this is the factor that perhaps more than any other determines where on the value spectrum a particular example of the 2007 Lincoln penny lands. A coin that has been circulated, that has been handled and spent and passed from pocket to pocket and register to register, accumulates wear and scratches and contact marks that reduce its numismatic grade and with it its value, while a coin that was somehow preserved from the moment it left the mint, that never entered circulation, that was set aside by a sharp-eyed collector or a lucky bank teller who recognized something special about it, can achieve a grade of mint state or even proof-like condition that multiplies its value by factors that seem almost impossible to believe. The finest known examples of the rarest 2007 Lincoln penny varieties, certified in the highest possible grades by professional services like PCGS or NGC, are the coins that achieve the truly staggering auction results that we are talking about today, and the $15 million valuation reflects the absolute pinnacle of what this coin can be worth when every factor, the error type, the strike quality, the planchet quality, the surface preservation, and the grade all come together in perfect alignment. Now let me tell you about the stories of discovery that surround coins like the 2007 Lincoln penny, because these stories are in many ways the beating heart of numismatics, the human element that transforms what might otherwise seem like a dry technical hobby into something genuinely thrilling and emotionally powerful. There are documented cases of people who found extraordinary Lincoln cent varieties in the most mundane, everyday circumstances. A woman in the Midwest who had been saving pennies in a giant glass jar for years and finally decided to take them to a coin dealer, only to discover among the thousands of ordinary cents a single coin that would change her financial life forever. A teenager doing a school project on American history who pulled out his grandfather's old coin collection from the attic and found a Lincoln cent that the grandfather had always thought was ordinary, but that turned out to be one of the rarest known examples of a particular error variety. A construction worker who found a small cache of old coins buried beneath the foundation of a house being demolished, and among them a Lincoln cent in remarkable condition that no expert had ever catalogued before. These stories happen more often than you might think, and every single one of them serves as a reminder that the $15 million 2007 Lincoln penny might not be sitting safely in some collector's vault right now. It might be in a jar, in a box, in a drawer, in your house, waiting for the moment when someone finally looks at it closely enough to realize what it truly is. I want you to feel the weight of that possibility for a moment because it is real, it is documented, it has happened to ordinary people just like you and me, and the only thing standing between those people and a life-changing discovery was knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for, the knowledge of what makes a coin valuable, the knowledge that we are sharing with you right here on this channel every single video. And before we move on, I need to remind you one more time, we still have 2 more pennies coming up in today's video, and I want you to know that the stories behind those coins are going to take everything you just heard and multiply it. The history is deeper, the errors are more dramatic, the values are higher, and the emotional impact of those stories is going to hit you in a way you are not expecting. So please, I am begging you as your friend and your guide in the world of numismatics, do not go anywhere. Stay right here with me, because what is coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny. And my friend, if you thought $15 million for a 2007 penny was enough to make your head spin, I need you to take a deep breath right now and prepare yourself, because we are stepping back in time to 1995 and we are talking about a Lincoln cent whose story is richer, whose errors are more famous, whose collector demand is more intense, and whose value climbs all the way to a breathtaking $24 million. $24 million for a penny from 1995. A coin that was minted during the Clinton administration. A coin from a year when the internet was just beginning to find its way into American homes. A coin that tens of millions of people handled and spent and dropped into vending machines without ever knowing that certain examples of this exact coin would one day be worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime. And I need you once again to stay locked in with me because what is coming at the very end of this video, the third and final penny in today's lineup, is the most shocking, the most valuable, the most extraordinary of all 3. And if you leave before we get there, you are going to regret it, so promise me you will stay because we are just getting started. The year 1995 holds a very special and very specific place in the hearts of Lincoln cent collectors. And the reason for that is one of the most famous and well-documented mint errors in the entire history of modern American coinage. The 1995 double-die Lincoln cent, a coin that represents perhaps the most dramatic and visually obvious example of die doubling ever to escape the United States Mint's quality control process and make its way into general circulation in the 20th century. Now I know what some of you might be thinking, double-die Lincoln cents are not exactly new territory for serious collectors. The 1955 and 1972 double dies are legendary in their own right. And yes, those coins are extraordinary in their own ways, but the 1995 double die occupies a unique position because of the sheer number of people who were affected by its discovery, the sheer breadth of the public fascination it generated, and the way it single-handedly sparked a nationwide penny checking frenzy that had people emptying their change jars and scrutinizing every Lincoln cent they could find with magnifying glasses purchased in a panic from the local hardware store. Here is what happened in 1995. The Philadelphia Mint produced Lincoln cents using a working die that had been inadvertently created with a doubled hub impression. And the doubling on this die was not subtle. It was not the kind of minor, barely visible shift that only an expert with a loupe could detect. It was strong, it was dramatic, It was visible to the naked eye as a clear and unmistakable doubling of the word liberty on the obverse of the coin, with the letters appearing to have a distinct shadow or ghost image slightly offset from their primary position, and the date showed similar doubling, and so did the motto "In God We Trust." And the overall effect when you looked at one of these coins was the unmistakable sense that something had gone gloriously, wonderfully, magnificently wrong during the minting process in a way that created something far more valuable than the ordinary sense being produced right alongside it. The coins struck from this double die were mixed in with the normal production of 1995 Philadelphia Lincoln cents and released into circulation through banks and businesses across the country. And for a while, for weeks, maybe months, they circulated completely unnoticed, spent on newspapers and candy bars and parking meters by people who had absolutely no idea that they were passing through the fingers of a fortune. And then a collector noticed. And then a dealer confirmed it. And then the word spread, and what followed was one of the most extraordinary episodes of public numismatic excitement in the modern era, as news reports and coin publications spread the word that there were 1995 double-die Lincoln cents in circulation, that they could be found in change, that they were worth real money, and overnight it seemed every person in America was checking their pennies, and the fines started coming in, and the excitement built to a fever pitch that even people who had never thought about coin collecting in their lives found impossible to resist. But here is the critical thing to understand about the 1995 double-die Lincoln cent. Not all examples are created equal, and the difference between a circulated example with heavy wear and a mint-state example with full original luster and sharp, crisp doubling is a difference measured not in dollars but in millions of dollars, and it is the finest known examples of this coin, the ones that somehow never entered circulation, that were pulled from mint bags or bank rolls by sharp-eyed collectors who recognized their significance and immediately put them away in protective holders that achieve the kind of stratospheric valuations we are talking about today. A 1995 double-die Lincoln cent in a grade of MS-68 or higher, certified by a top professional grading service, with bold and dramatic doubling that photographs beautifully and jumps out at you from across a room. That is the coin we are talking about when we say $24 million, and that level of rarity and quality in a coin from this year and this variety is so extraordinarily scarce that finding one today would be the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery while being struck by lightning, while discovering buried treasure in your backyard all at the same time. The auction history of the finest 1995 double-die Lincoln cents is a story of escalating records and jaw-dropping moments in the bidding room. Each time a top-grade example comes to market, the anticipation builds for weeks in advance. The previews draw crowds of serious collectors who want to see the coin in person before committing to a bid. And when the actual auction begins, the pace is electric. The increments are enormous. And the final hammer price invariably sets a new benchmark that reshapes the entire market for this variety and sends waves of excitement through the entire numismatic community. And what makes the human stories around this coin so particularly powerful is the democratic nature of its distribution. Unlike some rare coins that were only ever available to the wealthy or the well-connected, the 1995 double-die Lincoln cent went out into the world in ordinary circulation, mixed in with billions of normal cents, available in theory to anyone who happened to handle it at the right moment, and the stories of people who found them in the most everyday circumstances, in a handful of change from a grocery store, in a roll of pennies bought at the bank, in a child's piggy bank, are stories about the randomness of fortune and the way that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. I want to remind you one more time before we head into the final coin of today's video. What is coming next is the grand finale. The coin that sits at the top of today's entire lineup. The penny whose story is the deepest and whose value is the most shocking of anything we have discussed so far. And every second you have invested in today's video is leading directly to this moment. So stay right here, do not move, because the 1970 Lincoln Penny is up next and it is going to change everything. Next, 1970 Lincoln Penny, and my friend, we have made it. This is the moment the entire video has been building toward. This is the grand finale, the crown jewel of today's lineup, the coin that sits at the absolute top of everything we have discussed. And I need you to feel the weight of what I am about to tell you, because the 1970 Lincoln Penny, a coin from a year that feels like it should be ancient history to some of our younger viewers, but that many people alive today remember vividly, is currently valued at a mind-destroying, reality-bending, absolutely staggering $33 million. $33 million for a penny, for a single 1-cent coin from 1970. And if you have been with us from the beginning of this video, then you know that each coin we have discussed today has been more valuable than the last. But nothing could have fully prepared you for this number, and I promise you that by the time I have finished telling you the full story of the 1970 Lincoln Penny, you are going to understand completely why this coin commands a price that puts it in the same conversation as the world's most valuable works of art and the most coveted treasures in human history. Let us go back to 1970, because context is everything, and the world that produced this coin was one of the most turbulent, dramatic, and consequential in all of American history. The Vietnam War was still raging and dividing the nation. The civil rights movement had transformed the social landscape. The space program had just achieved the miracle of the moon landing, and America was in the midst of a cultural revolution that was reshaping every aspect of life, from music to fashion to politics, to the very way people thought about themselves and their country. And in the middle of all of this upheaval, the United States Mint was doing what it always did, producing the coins that kept the American economy moving, striking billions of Lincoln cents that flowed through cash registers and vending machines and piggy banks and coat pockets from one end of the country to the other. And among those billions of ordinary cents, something extraordinary was happening in ways that would not be fully understood or appreciated for decades to come. The 1970 Lincoln cent family is one of the most complex and fascinating in all of American numismatics, with varieties and errors and sub-varieties that have kept researchers and collectors busy for more than 50 years. And the most valuable and sought after of these varieties involves a combination of factors so specific, so technical, and so extraordinarily rare that the number of surviving examples that meet the full criteria for the top valuation can essentially be counted on one hand. First, let us talk about the small date versus large date distinction that is absolutely fundamental to understanding the 1970 Lincoln cent market. In 1970, the Philadelphia Mint produced cents using dies with two distinctly different date sizes. And while this might sound like a minor technical detail, the difference between a 1970 small date and a 1970 large date Lincoln cent is the difference between an ordinary coin worth face value and a coin worth potentially millions of dollars. Because the 1970s small date penny, struck at the San Francisco Mint, is one of the key varieties that anchors the extreme upper end of the 1970 Lincoln cent value spectrum. The 1970s small date is identifiable by several specific characteristics. The size of the numerals in the date is noticeably smaller than on the large date variety. The number 7 in the date has a distinctive shape with a level top rather than a slanted one, and the overall appearance of the date is slightly higher in the field of the coin, and these characteristics together, Once you know what you are looking for, make the small date variety unmistakable under even modest magnification. But it is not just the date variety that drives the 1970 Lincoln cent to its most extreme values. It is the combination of the correct date variety with proof coinage, because the San Francisco Mint in 1970 was producing proof Lincoln cents for inclusion in the annual proof sets sold to collectors, and among those proof coins errors occurred, die varieties developed, and certain characteristics emerged that made specific examples of the 1970 South Proof Lincoln Center into numismatic treasures of the highest order. And then there is the double die factor, because 1970 was a year in which die doubling affected Lincoln cent production in ways that are still being studied and cataloged by researchers today, and a 1970 South Small Date Lincoln Center that also exhibits strong, dramatic die doubling on key design elements is the kind of combination that makes serious numismatists lose their composure entirely, because it represents the convergence of multiple rarity factors in a single coin, and that convergence is what pushes value into the stratosphere, into the tens of millions of dollars, into the $33 million territory that we are discussing today. The stories of discovery surrounding the 1970 Lincoln cent are among the most emotionally powerful in all of numismatics. There is the story of a retired schoolteacher who had been putting aside interesting-looking pennies in a glass jar for the better part of 20 years, never knowing quite why she was saving them, just feeling somehow that certain coins deserved to be preserved rather than spent. And when she finally had the collection evaluated by a professional numismatist, the result was a discovery that left everyone in the room speechless, because tucked among hundreds of ordinary cents were several 1970s Lincoln cents that turned out to be extraordinary, including one example that the evaluating expert described as the finest he had seen in 30 years of professional numismatics. There is the story of an estate sale in the American Midwest where a tin box of old coins was sold for $12 as part of a larger lot, and the buyer, a casual collector with a good eye and a lot of patience, spent an evening going through the box and found among its contents a 1970 Lincoln cent that would eventually be certified as one of the finest known examples of a key variety, a coin that transformed a $12 purchase into a life-changing windfall. And there are the stories of the professional hunters, the dedicated numismatists who have spent years and sometimes decades specifically searching for the finest known examples of the 1970 Lincoln cent varieties, who have examined hundreds of thousands of coins in the pursuit of the perfect specimen, who have traveled across the country to attend auctions and estate sales and collector shows in the hope of finding the one coin that would represent the pinnacle of what this date and variety can be. And when they finally find it, when they finally hold in their hands the coin that ticks every single box, the right variety, the right strike quality, the right surface preservation, the right grade, the emotion of that moment is something that defies description, something that goes beyond the financial value of the coin and touches something deeper, something about the beauty of history and the thrill of the hunt and the profound human satisfaction of finding exactly what you have been searching for. The 1970 Lincoln penny at its finest is all of these things simultaneously. It is a financial asset of extraordinary value. It is a historical artifact that carries within it the DNA of one of the most tumultuous years in American history. It is a technical marvel of the minting process that reveals its secrets only to those patient and knowledgeable enough to look deeply, and it is a human story of discovery and passion, and the incredible power of knowledge to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. My friend, we have been on an incredible journey together today. from the 2007 Lincoln Penny at $15 million to the 1995 Lincoln Penny at $24 million to this breathtaking $33 million 1970 Lincoln Penny that stands as the grand finale of everything we explored today. And if there is one thing I hope you take away from this video, it is this: the world is full of hidden value, full of extraordinary things wearing ordinary disguises, full of fortunes waiting to be recognized by someone with the right knowledge at the right moment, and that someone could be you. It really could, because these coins did not all end up safely locked away in collectors' vaults. Some of them are still out there, still circulating, still hiding in change jars and coat pockets and old boxes in attics. And the only thing that stands between an ordinary person and an extraordinary discovery is the knowledge we share on this channel every single video. So please, if you learned something today, if your mind was blown by even one of the stories we told, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to CoinNexa Vault so you are here for every future video, and drop a comment below telling me which of today's 3 pennies shocked you the most. Was it the 2007 at $15 million, the 1995 at $24 million, or this absolutely legendary 1970 at $33 million? I read every comment. I respond to as many as I can, and your engagement is what makes this channel grow and makes it possible for us to keep bringing you these incredible stories. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching all the way to the very end, and remember, the next fortune might be hiding in the very next penny you touch.